Thanks for joining us on yet another episode of the Exim Stories. So, this is the 28th of the sequence, and today we have a special guest, Indunath Chaudhary, who will help us with one other very interesting topic of the Exim Stories. So, to take you with the conversation, we have Meenal, our regular guest, who will be the host today. Let's get started. Meenal, over to you.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Just a second. A very warm welcome in Indurath to our 28th episode of Exim Stories. So, this Exim Stories podcast has been designed particularly keeping in mind and how do we bring in practical insights more on the real life experiences and how we solve the problems day in and day out faced by our Exim community at large. And we are proud to share that we have been able to begin. I wouldn't say that we have succeeded, but we have at least taken a step in that direction. And having you today would further enlighten our audience on this very interesting topic which we haven't touched in the past. No, demystifying the business payments actually beyond the borders.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
yeah. So, just to share a little of background, and then I'll come to what we are going to discuss today. So, India, like till date, like if I talk about the period April to December 2024, has achieved a remarkable export growth of around 602 billion USD. And again, with an ambitious target of achieving $2 trillion of exports by 2030, India is poised to become, no, we are into that phase of achieving that humongous target. But however, we need a lot of things in place, a robust ecosystem to achieve this. And cross-border payments, I believe, is a very critical component of this entire ecosystem. So I think today's topic is going to be very, very interesting because that will burst a lot of myths, and we can also talk from macro perspective your thoughts on what can be done better in this domain, such that our targets which we have set it, $2 trillion of exports we can achieve, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So before moving on to the topic, I will briefly introduce Indunath. So Indunath Chaudhary is a co-founder and chief operating officer of BriskPay, which is a fintech startup that offers cross-border payments platform for small medium business enterprises. It's a very interesting top thing which they are trying to do. Indunath himself has worked with Citibank, ICICI Bank, and NDDB. His expertise lies in building and delivering innovative solutions in the areas of cross-border trade, payments, supply chain finance, inclusive finance, etc. He is also a postgraduate from Institute of Rural Management, Anand, which works, and he has worked extensively across India with diverse clients and industries across large corporates, MSMEs, financial institutes, and e-commerce. So, with this, we again welcome you to our 28th episode of Exim Stories.
Thank you, Minal. Thanks again. And thanks, Chaitanya. And thanks, everyone, for being here and joining this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So, would you want to share some of your beginning remarks on this topic, and then I'll be asking you some questions.
See, Minal, thanks for this opportunity and having me here. And very interesting topic. As you would see, there is a lot of buzzword around cross-border payment nowadays. One of the reason that I think recognized by regulator and government that payments remain as in being an underlying requirement for cross-border trade. We as a country looking at reaching $2 trillion export. How can payments be simplified? Just a broad number that I would mention. So there have been multiple researches around the globe, and it was found that average cost of cross-border payments across retail and business payments is like 6.5%.
Oh,
And penetration of fintechs in cross-border payment, if we look at the global number, I think in 2024, a financial year ended in 2024, it was around 20%. And in India, it is less than 5%. And there is no concrete number that is there. So we did some research and realized that it is less than 5%. So, of course, as compared to global economies, there is a lot to catch up. And we in India, innovating, particularly in domestic digital payments front, leading the market, there is a lot to be done, particularly in cross-border payment. And with this huge target, of course, payment has to be solved. uh, Broad
right.
computation, if 100 billion, you mentioned that $602 billion is already processed by December, right? So just think of
Correct.
$100 billion payment being made, and $6.5 billion is going in the just the
Mm,
transaction cost. If it is redeployed in the economy, that itself
mm.
gives a boost of 5 to 6% to the overall flow.
Very true. Very true. And again, the important part here is, apart from cost, the hassle which any exporter has to go through to
Absolutely.
establish that this export has been received. That's again another topic I think we can talk about. Right.
That's true.
So
That's
very
true. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so from your perspective, like, why do you think so? In the news and all, we have been reading, talking, and debating. Even RBI, our FM, our PM, everybody is talking about cross border payments. Why suddenly there is so much of focus apart from what we discussed, that there is an export target. But what is your thought on that?
See, you rightly mentioned that during last GFF, our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she spoke about the focus being on cross-border payment. I think this government's focus, particularly in this tenor, would continue to be on cross-border. Of course, due to the huge numbers that we are looking at achieving in this decade, in next 5 to 7 years. See, as a country, if we see, we have seen a lot of success during the globalization, wherein the service economy started growing. We today
Hmm.
are amongst the largest service or software exporter in the country, and the growth is continuing. However, we cannot ignore the fact that we are a country of 150 crore odd, and large population being young one, and only service growing will still leave a lot of people out of the mainstream economy. And it remains
True.
critical that manufacturing as a segment also grows, which gives opportunity to unskilled labor, semi-skilled labor, and skilled manpower as well. So how to bring them on board? And bringing them on board, of course, consumption drives the economy, right? So if consumption in India is not that high, then where these people will be deployed? So that's where the global opportunities that we see, uh, after a lot of tiff between US and China becoming one of the major in global supply chains, the focus of lot of geographies like Europe, UK, US, it has shifted towards other countries in APAC region apart from China. And India being one of the country which has the large population,
Hmm.
which can actually be deployed or work towards manufacturing segment apart from the service which we are already doing. So it remains critical that we contribute to the export. Now, when we talk
Hmm.
about contributing to the export, the cost of any business remains very critical. There are multiple factors which are beyond controls of the government, which are like tensions between two different geography, which jacks up the prices of raw material. There are tensions between, as in various countries, which impact the sea freight, or there are tensions between
Hmm.
countries which are impacting the fuel prices or crude prices. So if we see raw material, logistics prices, all these go up. Ultimately, if the raw material or input cost is going up, somewhere it has to be adjusted. So if we as a country not able to command that kind of premium, particularly when we are competing with China, then prices cannot go up. If prices cannot go up, then for being a profitable country, a profitable business, it remains critical that cost has to be reduced. So one of the major factor, which is high cost, that I mentioned, 6.5% being paid in the cross-border transaction. This
Mm.
is the only area wherein innovation can help reduce the cost. Cost being just the one aspect, the challenges around compliances that you said. If compliances are too much, then often business owners may think or decide that why to get into that. There are a lot of issues around, the regulations, and above all, PMLA, FEMA. These are some of the critical regulation, and enormous powers are given to various as in enforcement agencies under this. So it remains critical that compliance is also to be adhered by business owner, and for adherence, a lot of knowledge sharing is required. So if we see, a lot of government initiatives are there which are being done to train and educate people, particularly how to do export. What are the basic building blocks? And once these building blocks are there and people come to mainstream, like a lot of us stay in metro cities, and in metro cities, if you want to look for a solution, say as simple as a credit card, you will have dozens of options. Every other financial institution is ready to give you a credit card. You go to Raipur, and then you try to find the same solution. For majority of the bank, Raipur might not be a geography where these solutions are offered credit card as a service. So the same applies to cross border payments also. Most of the banks, they have sophisticated backend which is developed in metro cities. So of course the sales guys are also aware. But the moment you go to the deepest tier of the country, which could potentially be the large contributor to the exports, the solutions are not even known, not only to bankers. Forget about exporters and all, bankers are not aware. So a
Mm.
lot of efforts have to go towards training these people who are actually offering the solution, and also bringing these people on board that okay, if distribution of this solution is becoming an issue, how the distribution should be solved. So that's the reason there has been a lot of talk around cross border, because it's not only the payment or the financing that has to be solved for.
Mm.
There are a lot of things in cross border payments which are required to be solved, and to take this as in make everybody from the deepest part of the country to join this mainstream of exporting economy.
True.
Yeah.
So very well explained that no why there is a lot of focus and the cost and many other aspects are equally important. So apart from this, what are the three top or the most important issues which come up while processing the cross border payments? What are your thoughts on
Okay.
that?
So, difficult question to restrict the pointers to three only. Well,
Yeah,
there are many.
many. Yeah.
There are many to be precise. So, one of the point that I just now mentioned is
Mm.
the availability and accessibility of the solution. So,
Mm.
though we are a country which has deep penetration of internet, almost everybody in the country today knows how to use a smartphone, at least for
True.
calling or basic watching of Instagram, YouTube, and all. But again, the utilization of these telephones are to be done to access the solutions which can go to the deepest tier. So
Mm.
availability and accessibility being the topmost challenge, which
Mm.
has to go, as in it, everybody, all the ecosystem participants have to work towards the same. Second remains the compliance. You touched upon the same, and we talked about it, because it's not that you're buying from a retailer, paying, exchanging the money by way of UPI or cash, and taking the delivery of goods and services, because there is a touch and feel that is happening over there. But in cross border, again, goods are shifted from our geography, or services are being given from our geography to a recipient in overseas geography. By the time it reaches, what form and shape it has reached, there are quality checks and other things, whether it conforms to the quality or compliance requirements of the overseas country. Like in India, you can say, okay, narcotics cannot be sold, so it's not sold. It is same for the buyer and seller both. But if we talk about, say, I'll take an example of pharma goods. We have a lot of things. as in a lot of retailers can sell pharma goods in India, but can all of them sell to US markets? No,
No.
because FDA is another regulation in US. So anybody who is getting into that geography has to conform to the FDA requirements, get the license and approval. Same for other aspects also. Some of the industries now globally have started implementing, the sustainable aspects, environmental friendly aspect,
Mm,
sustainability. So a lot of companies have stopped even procuring from those manufacturers who are not conforming to the safety norms, or who do not have even well laid out HR policies. So again, in buying, selling, the points that I want to highlight, that it's not the compliances in your jurisdiction, it is also the compliance in the overseas jurisdiction which is playing a biggest part. So a lot of alignment is required to be done over there. And third, remaining, the cost of this, any solution that you are taking or giving. So if the cost is exorbitantly high, uh, the usage of solution may not help. I'll just quote a couple of interesting outcomes of the study that we did before we started Brisk Pay. Uh, we found out that more than or near about 10% of the orders are not undertaken by the exporters. The simple reason is buyer is saying that I want to pay locally, because they might be small time buyer
mm,
in overseas geography. They do not have even their banking system may not be sophisticated enough so that they can make a cross border payments. So these orders are not even taken because buyer, as in exporters, do not know how to take this money. uh, Another example being the some 2 to 4% of the samples which are critical for export market, like if there is a beauty and care product company, or there is a handicraft company who wants to sell something overseas, again samples are to be sent. These samples may not be very costly, maybe $100, $500 at max, but these samples typically go free of cost. The reason is, to
true.
send this $100 or $50 sample, the cost of collection itself is 100 or $50. So we are
Mm,
losing out on that revenue. And I'll give you a parallel comparison to import. In India, I
mm,
think in our listeners there would be a lot of importers. Even if they buy a sample from China, the Chinese vendors ask for upfront payment and say that cost has to be borne by you for remittance. I want to receive this full money. So that is a parallel. In there is an economy which is receiving full money, and there are options to collect. But at the
mm,
same time, in neighboring country wherein we are focusing on exports, but our cost of sending a sample itself. So if samples are
mm,
not being sent, if the orders are not being taken, how would an
mm,
exporter get into that market? How will we take it from 700 odd billion dollar to $2 trillion? So these are some of
true.
bottlenecks which are to be solved by all of us together as an ecosystem participants.
Very true. Yeah, so you have highlighted this very ground level issues, which I think not many would be aware. But if policies and the support is provided in the right way, I think this can be taken care of. So these problems are such that no, there's nothing that we can't solve it.
Absolutely.
It's not such a so if we make an attempt to go in that direction, that is quite possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah. So the last question for today. So in all this, what we discussed, what according to you, fintech can play a role because they come with lot of innovation, lot of technology, and also what is the support from the banking or the regulators available in this domain, and how do we put together and make it look beautiful and so solve the problem which we are forcing, but in future if we can solve this with help of fintech, what are your thoughts on it?
See, again, a fantastic question, and this question I've answered in in context of multiple products that are being maybe launched by regulator or financial industry. CBDC being one of the aspect, and again, I have my views over there. It got launched, but again, limited success. What remains critical for the market, that a solution is developed which can take care of a specific product. So the problem which is lying, for example, there are cities around the country. Some of them who are in the coastal area, they have very good connectivity to the coastal lines, and they can ship the goods pretty well. But at the same time, that there are areas which are closer to maybe airports, or
Hmm.
maybe in the mainland. So from regulatory or government perspective, it is necessary support that is needed by the industry, that make the solution, or maybe the ports available everywhere. So my answer, or the response that I'm giving, may not be directly related to fintech, but this is where an
Hmm.
ecosystem participant can help. If we talk about the fintech, particularly, fintech solve for a specific segment and specific use cases. Like, look at banks; they have an infrastructure built. One size fits all does not work all the time. So the problem that is there with an e-commerce seller might not be the same with a manufacturing company which is, say, located in Ludhiana or Ahmedabad. The problems might
True.
not be same for a large exporter, say, from Lucknow. So large exporter use
Hmm.
cases are different, small exporter use cases are different, their selling methods might be different. So historically there was a
True.
B2B payment which was being solved by the bank. Again, large ticket, it was fantastic. Customers are happy because they get good services from the banks. The moment we come down in terms of annual turnover and all, their use cases are different. Today they are selling directly, they are selling through IndiaMart, they are selling through Amazon, they are getting listed on Walmart. They have also started selling on Facebook and Instagram. Now the payment
True.
requirements for each use case is different. The checkout experience, the
Hmm.
experience of a buyer on an Instagram is completely different than on Amazon.
Hmm.
Because you are watching a reel, you like the product, now you want to buy it immediately. How will you make the payment? By way of alternate payment methods, a QR code or UPI integration, can it be worked over there? Or vis-a-vis, you are going on
Hmm.
Amazon, okay, you have put something in card, you will decide, okay, today I don't have my credit card, I'll pay it tomorrow. So use cases are different. So user experience for selling as well as buying has to be simplified.
Hmm.
And again, the checkout experience can only be completed when the payment has been completed. So that's where
Hmm.
all the fintechs together and have to solve for it. We are working on very innovative use cases for checkout and new age commerce, because these are the new platforms on which the global selling is happening, and that's where the
True.
country will start finding the true export potential. So as a fintech,
Hmm.
we need to solve for, one is the onboarding experience. Gone are the days when anybody needs to go to bank, sign this thick bundle of documents and submit it to the branch manager or the person sitting at the desk, and waiting for multiple days for getting the account activated.
Hmm.
It's like now 5 minute onboarding process. You enter all the details. Your Aadhaar is linked to your PAN, your bank accounts are linked, you get OTP, you have KYC verification. What is the need of meeting anybody at the branch, or what is the need of a fintech going to an exporter's place to provide this solution on an
Hmm.
international account? So onboarding experience is something which has been simplified broadly. Uh, the transaction specific use case experience I did mention. And last but not the least, compliance is something which is required to be simplified, and it has to be industry and use case specific. One size fits all does
Hmm.
not work here also. So the requirements of a freelancer in terms of compliance is very different than requirements of a goods exporter who is selling maybe a large container, or who is selling a small packet of a watch which is being exported. So compliance, and for all these three things, the dependency would remain on the banks. See, fintechs are not banks. And as per regulatory requirement in any country, banks are the ones which can hold the money. And they are the one who are
Hmm.
the parties or institutions who are handling the flow of funds. So it becomes
Hmm.
critical that banks also open their arms and embrace the innovations which are being done by the fintechs. ultimately it is the distribution problem also which is being solved by the fintech. So if banks start seeing fintech as their competitor, again we will continue to stay behind the global economy, may not be able to touch the export target or maybe payments penetration target.
Very true. And again, with e-commerce exports exploding, I think it will happen very soon
Absolutely.
because a lot of focus has been placed by Ministry of Commerce on promoting e-commerce exports. For that particular segment, definitely the current method of cross-border payments doesn't serve the purpose at all.
Absolutely.
So I think that so the I think for me the takeaway is no one size doesn't fit all. So for the different categories and baskets of transactions, policies has to be aligned across border payments and etc. has to be aligned accordingly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Thank you. This is very interesting. Yeah. Any parting remarks from your side which you'd like to
See,
mention?
parting remarks would be if you are an exporter or wanting to start export, try using Brisk Pay and give us a feedback. See, for all fintechs, it is very critical that rather than users using the solution and leaving if they don't like it, please give your feedback. Your feedbacks are very critical and
Mm,
important because any company which is building a solution in this cross-border payment space, they also need to
mm,
learn with respect to the requirements and the challenges they still face, because that's what we are trying to
true.
solve. And yes, we as a
Mm,
country will achieve. We have huge human potential in the country, and
mm,
with regulatory support coming in at right time, government identifying it, focusing a lot. DGFT has been working a lot, particularly in promoting the export with various
very
association.
true.
So yes, we are gonna do it,
Mm,
and we are gonna do it together.
yeah, true. Thank you. I think just we had the Republic Day on 26th, and no, it gives us that moment of pride when we talk about no achieving this $2 trillion of exports. And if we all are working in the same direction, I'm sure this will happen.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, Minal. Yeah,
yeah. Thank you so much for sparing your time, and I think our listeners had a wonderful time, getting new insights from you. And I think if any bankers are listening, please pay attention to what Indu said, and let's try to figure out what best can be done out of
absolutely.
it. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Minal. Thank you, everybody who is listening to this and attending it. Thank you, Chaitanya.
Thank you. All right, people.
Thank you.
So we will come back to you next Tuesday with a new speaker and with a new topic on the exam stories. And until then, you know whom to follow now. Follow him on LinkedIn. And any questions, any queries, please shoot the messages either to any one of us, and we will make sure that you get the right responses. Thank you so much, and see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you.